Hi, I'm Lois, and I've been thinking about being offended. No, I haven't been offended recently. In fact, I can hardly remember the last time I did feel offended. But I was thinking about it because in today's society, we are admonished to never offend anyone. We must never upset people or make them feel bad. But I think trying to accomplish that would make life rather difficult because some people seem to be offended at almost anything, while other people never to be offended at all. So, what's the difference? Why are some people so easily offended while other people seem impervious? Well, I discovered one reason several months ago when I was watching a webinar. The subject of the webinar had a lot to do with woke ideology, and I discovered that people are being taught to be offended. The young woman who was speaking did a lot of complaining about, the way women and minorities are treated in the workplace. Well, during the Q&A, I submitted a statement that I didn't intend to be a question at all, but the host read it anyway. I commented that I had been a woman in science in the 60s, and I had no problems. My male colleagues were supportive and encouraging. Well, the young woman responded something like this. She said, "Well, I'm happy for you, but it isn't always like that." And I'm sure that if you looked for some microaggressions, you would have found some. Well, I didn't respond at the time, but I kept thinking about it. And I thought, why in the world would I look for microaggressions when I was being treated very well? I was happy. We were getting along beautifully. Everybody was happy. So, how ridiculous to look for microaggressions. Well, more recently, I was watching a video by Kimmy Katiti. She's absolutely adorable. Which she was describing how it affected her when she was taught to look for microaggressions. Need I say, the effect was rather harmful. I'll put a link to her video in the description below. But people are being taught to look for microaggressions now. But what about the past before the woke ideology sort of came into society? Well, I did find other reasons. One reason I found when I was doing group therapy many, many years ago. The therapist taught us a very important feature about being hurt, offended, or angry about something someone said or did. He explained that very often the cause of our reaction is not to what is being said or done currently, but instead it's to something harrowing or traumatic that happened to us years ago. And the current situation just rekindled those old feelings. Well, I was wondering if that's the case, how is it possible to avoid offending someone when they're reacting to something in their past that you don't know anything about? I don't think it's possible to avoid offending them completely. So, what are we to do? Well, the best thing I can think of is that we just do our very best to be as clear and concise in what we say and how we say it and hope for the best. If someone is offended, we can try to ask them calmly to explain what happened, what they're responding to, and hopefully we can clear things up. If they refuse to try, well, at least we tried. Now let's turn things around and analyze the situation if we are the ones who feel offended at something someone else says. How should we deal with this? Well, the therapist had a good answer to that one, too. A good way to try to figure out why we are reacting. He says if you have a strong reaction, the bad feelings might have something to do with the past. So, in the group, if somebody reacted, he would say, close your eyes and let yourself feel the pain. And he would pause for a moment and then he would say, how old are you? And then sometimes you'd suddenly realize, oh, I feel like I'm about 8 years old. And then he would say, what happened when you were 8 years old? Sometimes you could actually remember an incident or a situation and realize that what you were reacting to was that situation, that what someone just said just brought back those old feelings. So I would suggest that when something that someone says affects you now, that you try not to react immediately, but you try to figure out exactly what it is you're reacting to. That might actually help us deal with our past experiences, and it might improve our current relationships. Who knows? Well, if someone says something that stings a bit and we can't find anything in the past that might explain it, I suggest that we still don't react immediately, that we ask ourselves, does this person really mean what it sounds like they meant? You know, we all grow up in different home environments, and in some homes, people say and do things quite a bit differently than we do. And so we should, give the people the benefit of the doubt and maybe try to clear it up. Now, this brings me to a discussion I was in recently. The question was, do the intentions of the offender matter? I was surprised when someone said, no, it's only the outcome that mattered. The intentions didn't matter. Well, that would mean that you could say something totally innocently, having no idea that it would bother anyone, but you'd still be guilty for offending them. I mean, I just can't go along with that. I replied, intention is everything. If something was said or done innocently, then there's no reason to be offended. You might want to challenge the person. You might want to explain to them that the way they said something or what they said could be interpreted in such a way to be offended. And that might help them in their communication. Everybody learns something. Now, I'm not implying that no one ever intends to offend somebody. Unfortunately, there are people that like to say cruel things. They intend to hurt by what they say. And I guess all you can do in a case like that is consider the source. I mean, if someone wants to hurt you, then they're not your friend after all. So I refuse to give them the satisfaction of thinking they succeeded. I make a joke out of it, laugh about it, and sometimes that really irritates them because they realize that their attempt to offend you didn't work. So, okay, now let's look at this from yet another angle. What if someone tells you that something you said offended them? What are they really saying? I contend that they were saying, I believe you said that with the intention of hurting me. Well, I think that's a pretty serious accusation. Think about it. The act of being offended is, in itself, an accusation of a bad intention, an accusation of being cruel. I'm curious. What do you think about that? Just mull it over in your mind. Why are people so easily offended while others are not? Is there any reason to be offended if the person had no intention of offending? How should you respond to someone that says that they feel offended at something you said? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so let me know in the comments below. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.